Hey everybody, hope you're doing great. Hope your day is nice. Hope you're coming in nice and relaxed. We're picking up our reading on page 16 towards the bottom, okay? Yes. Many of the men and women were tortured by the Quraysh. Well, that's a starter to the video. The most famous of these sufferers, of whom history speaks in glowing terms, was Bilal bin Hamama, a tall, gaunt Abyssinian slave who was tortured by his own master, Umayyah bin Khalid. Ooh, tortured by your own master and then still having to serve someone like that? Ooh, in the afternoon during the intense heat of the Arabian summer, just thinking about that sounds awful. Oh, I couldn't handle heat like that. I belong in the snow, you know, family. Whew. When the sun would dry up and bake everything exposed to it, Bilal would be stretched out on the burning sand with a large rock on his chest and left to tender mercies of the sun. Every now and then his master would come to him, would look at his suffering, tormented face, his dry lips and his swollen tongue, and would say, "Renounce Muhammad and return to the worship of Lat and Uzza." Oh! Is this that what happened to the boy in the message? Well, he was a young man, right? Oh. Is that him? The one, remember? Huh. Wow. But the faith of Bilal remained unshaken. Little did Umayyah bin Khalid know, while he was torturing Bilal, that he and his son would one day face his erstwhile slave in the battle of Badr, and that Bilal would be his executioner and the executioner of his son. Bilal and several other slaves, all victims of torture, were purchased by Abu Bakr, who was a wealthy man. Whenever Abu Bakr came to know of a Muslim slave being tortured, he would buy and free him. That's a beautiful thing, look at that. In spite of all this persecution, the Prophet remained gentle and merciful towards his enemies. He would pray, "O Lord, strengthen me with Umar and Abul Hakam." His prayer was answered in so far as it concerned Umar, who became the 40th person to embrace Islam. Abu Jahl remained an unbeliever and died in his unbelief. That is amazing, that, surviving that heat. The sunburn. In 619, 10 years after the first revelation, Abu Talib died. The Prophet's position now became more delicate. The hostility of the Quraysh increased, and so did the danger to the life of Muslims. The Prophet remained surrounded by a few faithful companions to whom he continued to preach, and among these companions were 10 who were especially close to him. You know what is interesting? Muhammad was fine having just those 10, and there's some people who can have like 7 million followers, and it's never enough. Think about that. These men became known as the Blessed 10 and were held in a special esteem and affection by the Muslims as long as they lived. The Prophet remained in Mecca, bearing up against what became increasingly more unbearable. Then some men of Medina, at the same time known as Yasrib, met the Prophet and accepted Islam. Knowing the danger to which the Prophet was exposed, they invited him to migrate to their settlements and make his home with them. With this invitation came God's permission for the Muslims to migrate, and the Prophet sent most of them to Medina. Interesting. It's giving us like a little concise view of like what the Sealed Nectar has told us so far. I like how they all kind of give you a background, to make sure that even if you have read those circumstances, you get like a refresher. That's pretty helpful. In September 622, the Quraysh finally made up their minds to assassinate Muhammad. On the eve of the planned assassination, during the night, the Prophet left his house and, accompanied by Abu Bakr, a slave and a guide, migrated to Yasrib. With his safe arrival at Yasrib, Medina, as the place was now to be called, became the great seat and center of the Muslim faith and the capital of the new Muslim state. Right. This era of persecution was over. 3 months after the Prophet's departure from Mecca, Al-Walid called his sons to his deathbed. You know, that's actually a luxury, you know, think about it. If your family's in an old folks home, you're not even gonna have a chance to be there on their deathbed. Maybe they just get the call like, hey, your partner, you know, your family member's dead. Think about how much of a blessing that is, that Ali could just lay on the bed and be like, okay, the end is near, and there's still people around to recognize it, right? To be like, hey, you know, this is coming up. And to have your children around you. So a lot of these people who don't have children, who are they going to call to their deathbed? Who will come to the call? And like, if you do have kids, you would hope they'd want to be at your deathbed when you call. Something to think about. Maybe when we put all our old people, we don't keep them at home. We keep them just cooped up somewhere away. And they might have nobody at their deathbed. They die. And then just a nurse comes in and calls the coroner or whatever. That's really sad. Dang. Shows you how traditions have changed. He knew that he was dying. "O my sons," he said, "there are 3 tasks that I bequeath you. See that you do not fail in carrying them out. The first is my blood feud with the Kuza. See that you take revenge. By Allah, I know that they are not guilty, but I fear that you will be blamed after this day. The second is my money, accruing from interest due to me with the Saqif. See that you get it back. Thirdly, I am due compensation or blood from Abu Uzair. This man had married the daughter of Al-Walid and then put her away from him without returning to her father's home." Wow. Wow, that's such an interesting thing to say on your deathbed. It's like giving you the rundown. Having made these bequests, Al-Walid died. He was buried with all the honor due to a great chief, as respected elder and noble son of the Quraysh. The first of the problems was settled without too much difficulty. The Khuzas paid blood money, and the matter was closed without violence. The second matter remained pending for many years, and was then shelved as unsettled. As for the third problem, i.e. the feud with the son-in-law of Al-Walid, Khalid's brother Hisham decided that he would be content with nothing less than the blood of Abu Uzair. He waited more than a year before he got his chance. So he was patient, right? It's like waiting. Then he killed his man. The matter assumed an ugly aspect, and there was danger of further bloodshed between the 2 families. But Abu Sufyan intervened and made peace. No more blood was shed. Oh, so Abu Sufyan for the save. During the years following his father's death, Khalid lived peacefully in Mecca, enjoying the good life which his wealth made possible. He even traveled to Syria with a trade caravan. Oh, that'd be cool! To a large town called Busra, which he was to approach many years later as a military objective. We do not know how many wives or children he had at this time, but we know of 2 sons. The elder was called Suleiman, the younger Abu Rahman. Cool. The latter was born about 6 years before the death of Al-Walid, and was to achieve fame in later decades as a commander in Syria. But according to Arab custom, it was Suleiman by whose name Khalid became known. Thus, he was called variously Khalid, his own name, Ibn al-Walid, i.e. the son of Al-Walid, and Abu Suleiman, i.e. the father of Suleiman. Most people address him as Abu Suleiman. Hey, that's pretty cool. So Yasrib, and then Medina is the capital. That's cool, man. Awesome.